In this video, I'm going to teach you how to water jet or tunnel under a walkway and a lot more. Here's an example of somebody running drip tubing under a concrete walkway. Don't ever do that. It's always best to run PVC pipe under the walkway, schedule 40, thick wall pipe under here, and then convert to drip on the other side. If there's some reason you don't want to run PVC under the walkway, at least put a PVC pipe under there that you can slide the tubing through. That's still not recommended, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now we've got a break under here somewhere, and there's not going to be any way to, do a repair on it. And with the potential roots that are under here now from this shrub, I don't know what it's going to be like if we can even shove a pipe under there. So the reason you don't want to even put tubing in a pipe going under the concrete is because roots can go into that pipe we call a sleeve, and it can jam up that pipe, and then you won't be able to even pull the tubing through anymore. I've had that happen with a pipe that went under a driveway. It wasn't this place, it was somewhere else. But the roots had gotten in there and I couldn't even pull the tubing through, so it was a loss. I couldn't even do the repair on that job. So we're going to turn this water on and see how long it takes for the water to show up, and it'll give us some kind of idea how far under the concrete the break is. Here we go. I heard it. As long as it took for that water to arrive, it is possible that the break is on the other side of the concrete. But we have a shrub in our way. That's not going to be fun. The base of the plant is right up against the concrete, so this plant's going to have to come out to do anything. So with that in mind, I'm as sure as can be that the roots are what broke that tubing under there. So the owner's gonna have somebody take the shrub out and call me, and then I'll come back and I'll dig this down. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually run PVC under here and get rid of the strip tubing, and we're gonna run PVC straight under here, and then we'll convert to drip on this side the right way. Okay, the shrub got taken out, and as you can see, the drip tubing does come up from under the walkway there. During the shrub removal, that tubing got severed. I'm going to dig this area up and see if I can find where the break is over here. Hopefully it's not under the concrete. My plan is to remove that over there and bring PVC straight under there and convert to drip over here. So you see, these are all roots going under the walkway. This is all solid roots. It's all been cut when they took the shrub out. And there's an emitter just inches away from the concrete. This has been marred from the shovel when they were taking the shrub out. This is too close to the concrete here. You want to leave some distance here. In case that thing ever goes bad, you're going to have to cut that section of tubing out. Now you're going to have a tough time coupling it on here, but you also see how flat this is. That's what the roots did to this. Flatten out this tubing. So I don't know if we could get a pipe through there if we wanted to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a figure 8 on the end of this, turn the water on, and see where the water shows up. See if it comes from underneath the walkway. Well, we're not going to be able to cut that and repair it. Okay, back for a third visit. Now it's time to try to get this thing repaired, back in operation. So what I found when I was carefully digging here, this was like this, and I was expecting the piping to be going straight to the valve, which is this one here. But instead I found this pipe, so I was being really careful with it, but even at that, this thin wall pipe snapped off right at a fitting. How do I know it was a fitting? Well, one, it was a clean break. Two, we've got glue residue here. So what does that mean? Why would there be a fitting? Well, it's an elbow going back to the valve. And how do I know it's an elbow, and why would it be under the concrete? Well, it wouldn't make sense for the piping to be coming straight out here, go under the walkway, over here, and then back over here, right? So why would it be elbowed? Well, take a look at the concrete. The concrete here was obviously poured after this driveway. This went in with the initial installation with the house. This came later. So what happened was they had installed the irrigation system before there was a walkway here. And they just ran it out here, came down here, and then it probably converted to drip somewhere in here. It may have gone over all the way here, but I don't know. Point is, they needed to reroute it to over here when they poured this concrete. So they did it here, and then again, the tubing is just barely under the concrete here. See there? And it's flattened out because of the roots that pushed up against it. So anyway, that's busted. So I have no choice now but to run the new piping all the way to the valve. I'm gonna cut into the piping here, cut into it here and run it this way. But over here we have obstacles. We can't go above because there's no room there between the concrete and this drain pipe, 6-inch drain pipe. And down here, that's concrete slag from when they poured the foundation of the house. That's all concrete down there, so there's barely any room down there between the drain pipe and that concrete slag. So so normally I would be digging a trench out this way and putting this assembly in that trench and coming this way with it. That's the norm. But because of this situation, I had to dig this trench anyway, so I'm just going to lay it in here. And I don't know, the pipe has to fit between that concrete and drain pipe, so I'm going to go this direction with it. Hopefully it'll squeeze between the concrete and that drain pipe. And so on this side, I dug it down deeper than what I needed to and gave some extra room here. Normally this trench would be dug a foot or two longer than the water jet pipe assembly, so the assembly can lay flat in the trench. Also, the trench needs to be deeper than the intended depth of the pipe going under the walkway. Be sure to go deep enough to avoid any roots or uneven concrete under the walkway. Keep in mind that the concrete can be deeper in places underneath, so don't attempt to tunnel directly under the seen concrete. You don't want the pipe right up against the concrete or roots since concrete settles. If the pressure nozzle hits any hard obstructions under there, it can force the water jet pipe downward and end up under the hole you dug. A good practice is to go ahead and install at least one other pipe under there while you're at it for possible future use for water or electrical. In this case, there was no room to add an extra pipe. So hopefully it'll come through and we can redo this. Okay, to tunnel under, using this special setup here, attaching to the customer's garden hose. I have this shut-off valve and that special fitting there. So it's hose thread, and it has a rubber hose washer in there, and then a 3/4 inch pipe fits in there. And then we'll screw it onto this shut-off valve. You can buy these at pretty much any home center in the garden section where they have the garden hoses. It's glued on to the Schedule 40 pipe, thick wall pipe, 3/4 inch. And then this special fitting here is glued on, and that has hose thread on it. That's not a regular male adapter. It's hose thread, and then that brass pressure nozzle is also hose thread. So this is 4 feet long because most walkways are 3 feet wide, and this will go under it with some extra. You want it to stick out on either end. And you want this shut off on here because you want to be able to turn the water on and off quickly while you're on your knees and not have to run back to the faucet to turn it off. Also, I'm wearing an overcoat to keep my clothes clean, because normally when you do this, this is going to splatter mud all over the place. I'll probably get it on my face till it comes out on the other side. And I want to stay presentable the best I can when I go to my next customer's place. By the way, the reason these fittings are glued on is so that when I'm working through here, that because sometimes I have to go back and forth with that pipe in there, and I don't want the assembly coming apart under there, snagging on roots or concrete or rocks. And this stays on the truck. I've used this repeatedly. If you need a longer one or a shorter one, then just create it, and then you can use it for future use. But I've found that this one here at about 4 feet is just right for most situations. Well, they totally lucked out. It came through. I don't know if you can tell, but it's a little bit at an angle downward, which is not uncommon. When you do this, you want to have this trench lower than what you need right here. And you want it so that you can have the pipe not only level, but you want to actually, when you start the process, actually turn the water on here, you actually want to kind of point the tip of it upward so that it will try to stay level as it goes through, because oftentimes the roots or concrete or whatever that's under here, whatever kind of debris might be under here, if it catches something like that, its tendency is to go down at an angle. I had one of these one time when I was going under a driveway. It ended up on the other side. It was 5 feet lower than the concrete, than the driveway. So now I'm going to get a piece of pipe and put a slip cap on it and put it through under here. Now I have the new pipe laid out lined up with the valve. Again, it's schedule 40. And I'll be cutting it generously around here. I want it longer than what I need it so that I can cut it exactly when I get it actually installed down there. So I'm going to cut this, and then I want to leave this pipe in place to hold the soil where it is at the moment until I'm ready to put this pipe through. Once I pull this out with this silty sand here, it'll start caving in immediately in here if I don't leave that in there. The pipe is cut and I slipped, not glued, a cap on there. You just got to make sure when you go through that you go straight through and you don't pull it back. If you pull it back, that cap will snag on something under there and pull off, and then you may not be able to get your pipe back through again. So one direction only once you start pushing it under the concrete. Okay, it's through successfully. And by the way, I've been scooping water out of that hole each time before I film using my handy dandy cups so that I can show you what's going on. Otherwise, this has been underwater. So now I'm going to cut this off to get it out of the way, and I'll start the process of connecting the vertical pipe from the valve to that pipe. Here's a Sprinkler Pros tip. If you want to keep from dribbling glue or primer on the concrete, because I don't want to be staining this, then put dirt right here, a good layer of dirt, and then put your tote as close as you can here, and then if it dribbles, it's going to dribble on that dirt that you can just swipe into the hole when you're done. Okay, I put this pipe even with this vertical pipe, found where I needed to cut the vertical pipe using my Milwaukee Sharpie. And cut that section out there. I had to cut on the mark and down below so that I'd have room to get that elbow on there. Once I got that cut, then I measured between these two pipes, the vertical and the horizontal pipe here, and found it was 4 inches. Cut the 4-inch pipe and glued it into the elbow, then slipped that on, and then made sure this was perpendicular to each other for the next elbow. Did this first because you have the most flexibility with this pipe right here. When I'm going to be dealing with close quarters down there like that with glue, I put these glue gloves on. Well, I call them glue gloves. They're technically chemical gloves, and they're lined with a soft material. And these just go not even up to my elbow. Well, on me, I'm 6'2". Then I glued the elbow onto the short piece of pipe and got it positioned correctly for this pipe, and then I was able to glue that pipe on. So now all I have to do is just do my piping on this side. So this is the assembly I'm going to be using. If you want to see the details on what the fittings are, then watch this video and go to the chapter that's showing on the screen. But the only difference between that assembly and this one is that this is 12 inches long instead of 6 inches. And on the other video, I used a swivel T, and this is actually just a swivel adapter, and the tubing will fit right in there. So that's the only difference. back in business. Remember the free downloads that can help you with your irrigation, and also remember the resources site linked below that has most of the products for sale that I've discussed in this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.